So today, as you may have already read in the email, we're going to kind of keep it broad, but we do have a goal that in mind for the end of the 1 hour session or less than 1 hour session, and we'll see if we can get there. What I wanted to make sure that that we were all on the same page to start off with in terms of source reduction. So if you don't mind, can you put it in the chat window, maybe your thoughts on just basically what you think of as source reduction, what kind of things apply, and then we will go into individual, feedback, and this will be more or less a discussion session today, not any particular agenda items, other than getting to the goal of defining what broad categories of source waste and source reduction that we want to focus on for the coming months, and for the creation of the menu of items. So I know it sounds like a very easy topic today, the goal, but I don't know for sure. So we'll see, because as you know, when it comes to talking about waste and all, there's just too much out there. So we'll try to get there, right? So I'm going to just keep the chat window open on the right-hand side. Oh, okay. So anyway, so anybody want to go first, either in the chat window or anything that, what comes to your mind when it comes to source reduction, and what is kind of one of the first things that's on your top of your list, and why do you think why we should be focusing on it in this work group? And the questions that I put in Liz and I put in the chat agenda applies in terms of like making it local. How does it apply to Nevada thing? So anybody want to volunteer first? Uh-oh.
There's a few things in the chat, Lakshmi.
Yeah.
So we have source reduction. Madonna says source reduction, replace disposable items with reusable, refurnishable items. I view it as when you're manufacturing a product, really designing that product with the end in mind. Like, how are you going to not have waste at the end when that product is produced? For example, a pair of jeans, how are you reducing the textile waste from cutting the pair of jeans from that fabric? And that's a very simple type of an idea to think about, but designing your processes and your products to have no waste at the end. So that's my idea.
Yes, that is absolutely a very good example. Thank you, Liz, for that specific example. I think that brings that, you bring up the textile, and I'm no doubt we'll probably talk a little bit more about that. One of the members who wasn't able to be here today, she sent a list, so I'll be reading that out at a later point as well. So anybody else? Come on, guys. So designing, like during the designing phase itself of the products, I am definitely, that's one of the sort of the broad areas that we could, that I think we should be thinking about for sure. Someone's trying to say, who's 3799?
That's me, Patty Moen. So I guess I would think of reuse or refill instead of, you know, like single-use bottles. So like they used to wash, you know, return bottles and wash them instead of having, you know, one-time use bottles, that kind of thing. Or even just a bottle bill for capturing and recycling beverage containers. I think that would be on top of my list.
Yes, that's on top of my list too. Thank you for bringing it up. Sorry, someone else was going to. Is someone else trying to say something? Okay. Reuse and refill, sure, okay. I may have to start maybe then asking in person people individually. So I'm hoping to get more feedback here.
Lakshmi, it looks like Laura put a good point in the chat, linking one process with another to use the waste or excess of this process into another process. So that's a really good way to think about reducing waste as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a
Say something.
Yeah.
Hello.
Go ahead, Asra.
Okay, hi. I would approach it differently. First, we need to define it. What is a waste? Waste reduction, there are different category of waste. If not, we repeat the same type of waste we are looking for. The bottle, reusing plastic or something like that. I think when I joined this group, I think the scope of this group is more statewide or regional wide to use it, that thing. The way we define it so that different jurisdiction, they can use it consistently. So the definition is waste in Nevada looks like this. It can be anything, any substance, whether solid, liquid, whatever gas that is discharged, emitted, blah, blah. And then there are different categories. We have a different source of waste. We will discuss, if you want, the mining, the agriculture industry, household, construction and water treatment. They're all these things a different type of waste. Therefore, if we define it, at least general idea, strategically, everybody will come up, okay, this group of things can be reusable. We learn, there's lesson learned. We have companies. Always we need to think about businesses. Therefore, there are companies doing this in Nevada. So we starting really discerning ideas and getting defined clearly so that every jurisdiction also they can use it. I think I understood that's the way we are going to do here in the working group, not focusing and repeating the same source of reduction it is, but what it is. How do we define it in the state of Nevada? Waste means this. And then if that is what are the things we can focus on, ABCD. And then in that things, the source of waste, we could reduce it by recycling, by reusing, whatever it is, we will learn innovation and technology attached to that. And then we have more, bigger stakeholders join us in this discussion. Is it that I understood it right, or maybe it's a little bit?
Yeah, I think we're on the same page there. You know, that's exactly it. You know, we're trying to define what are the general categories, right?
Let's do that. Yeah.
Source waste. So that's what we are trying to get at first, right? That, like you mentioned, and then we start looking at the next steps. Definitely would be how relevant is it in Nevada? I mean, you know, what is the imminent issue specifically with Nevada, and then and prioritizing, and then looking at solutions and getting more. Yeah, I think you pretty much stated what we're kind of trying to work towards. So definitely. So to that end, I mean, as you can see in the chat window, there's definitely some really great ideas coming up, like the designing product, reuse and refill. I wanted to go a little bit more in detail about Laura's feedback on linking one process with another. Perhaps, Laura, can we maybe discuss like an example of what you have in mind, if you don't mind sharing that? Yeah. Laura? Are you on mute? I don't know if I can see her. Okay.
Looks like her microphone is not working at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll circle back to it. So coming back to, yeah, what we were talking about with the different categories, right? So Astor, you brought up things like mining, construction, you know, there's of course, so this is like going even further back from manufacturing, back to actual getting the materials, minerals, or whatever that is, right? The extraction of that comes into picture. And yes, there are definitely probably opportunities there to look at, if there is anything that we as a team could identify, and that's specific to Nevada. For example, I don't know enough about what kind of mines exist here, you know, what kind of all that stuff. So that's definitely one thing we can put on the table as something to look into. The other thing is like construction material. Yeah, definitely. And if you took a look at the Kim, you had requested, and then that was an excellent idea, the study that was done in Washoe County in 2018. I noticed that, Kim, do you want to speak to that a little bit, since you requested it, and then rather than me just chattering away?
Sure, sorry. I had raised my hand. I'm tuning in from my phone, so I'm familiarizing myself with all of the features, but I was just going to piggyback off of what Astor was saying, and some of the things that KTMB has been looking at is analyzing our waste stream. And I'm also part of another group. I'm co-chairing the public education outreach group. And we thought it was pretty important to grasp what our waste stream looks like. What are the major things that is currently being sent to the landfill, and try to identify, categorize, like what Astor was saying, categorizing those materials, and then identifying any opportunities to reduce the flow of these materials being dumped in the landfill. And so the waste characterization report that Washoe County actually implemented a few years back took a look at the components of Washoe County, our community's waste stream. It was a waste characterization report, and it essentially sampled waste being generated in family homes, residencies, and as well as the business commercial sector. And it identified food waste as being the largest component of Washoe County's waste stream, along with yard waste and dry recoverable fiber. And so those three components made up over 2/3 of the overall waste generation. And those three components are, there are definitely opportunities for source reduction in terms of, composting and identifying other outlets to prevent these things from taking up space in our landfill. And so KTMB has been looking at those three in particular, and as well as other miscellaneous objects that we as a community gravitate towards, and looking at, again, like those opportunities for diversion. So for instance, if we talk about like packaging materials, one of the big ones we've identified is like styrofoam, for instance. And styrofoam doesn't really have an outlet to our knowledge, and it does have supplements, especially if we're talking about like the restaurant sector, and how much generation that creates for like food waste and other like packaging materials. And so basically starting off with like a baseline of like what our generation looks like, to Aster's point, categorizing and identifying some of the red flags. I don't believe the state has a report like this at this time, but I guess just basing our findings from other communities and what other communities have discovered, like Washoe County, and then using that as a benchmark that will hopefully keep us focused and oriented in terms of next steps.
Yep. Thank you, Kim. I agree with all of them. Anybody else want to add anything to what Kim said? Okay.
It looks like Laura responded in the chat, Lakshmi.
Oh, sorry, I have to keep scrolling up and down, and I'm neglecting to do that. Thank you. Okay, she'll come back. Yeah, thank you, Madonna. I think you go by Donna, right?
Actually, I go by Madonna.
Madonna, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, since we're talking about the waste characterization study, Incline Village is one of the transfer stations that was part of the study. And yeah, our forest waste products up here in the Tahoe Basin, that is, along with C and D, those are two highly identified items ripe for diversion. So we got plenty to talk about in this group. I think we should take our time at the beginning and decide, but we have to have dialogue first, and then I think we can focus our energy and come down to our talking points as a group and high level stuff where we want to identify. I think this is good sharing, even if it's going to take some time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yep. Okay. Laura's example is pretty interesting too. What she brought up is in terms of using landscaping material to produce soil. I guess so. Looking like to me, whether it's food waste, yard waste, forest product things, there is like almost becoming composting of one way or another is on the one of the top opportunities in our state, right? At least from the study here that was done, and then so we definitely should, I think, consider that as one of the top items, general category items.
So Lakshmi, we do have an organics group that's most likely going to be focused on composting. So maybe thinking a step backwards or going upstream a little more of like how to reduce food waste in the first place. Maybe a better area for this group.
True. Thank you. That definitely. Yeah. So we're good on time. Shall we take a few minutes to maybe actually before we go into a little bit more on the sources of food waste, are there other broad categories that people want to bring up? Like I was thinking like water, energy, as well, and I think Liz, you had like a hazardous waste in mind as so. Does anybody have maybe some kind of thought you have about water waste or energy waste that you want to speak to the group about?
Lakshmi, I will just say that you brought up hazardous waste. I don't have as much to say about water or energy, but I just want everybody to be thinking too, like we have some huge waste streams that are in organics, which other groups are going to deal with. But when we look at hazardous waste, it's kind of like comparing the scorpion to the elephant, and the scorpion is very toxic. So thinking about that source of waste reduction is a good thing for us to do, and moving up the value stream, so to speak, where that waste is thought about is important, and I think we need to focus on it. So for example, solvents are a huge issue, and they are very toxic, and it takes a lot of energy and regulation in order to properly handle it. So if companies are using aqueous solvents, for example, is a good way to reduce that scorpion type waste that's very toxic. So just to be thinking about the waste at the end, while it might not be a huge amount of waste compared to say food waste, it is a very toxic waste, and there are some already known ways to reduce that, and we can focus kind of on that front end and what incentivizes or helps companies or households reduce that household hazardous waste is something that I would like to bring up as well. So
yeah,
and I'd like to piggyback off what Liz said too. So if we identify what these sources of waste are, whether they're the toxic ones or the broader general ones, once we identify the waste streams, we can, like she said, go upstream and see what those sources are, and really focus on, is there anywhere we can identify solutions, so like are we going to swap out the solvents to be aqueous, like stuff like that. So like you guys are pointing out, these are the different categories of source waste, of waste, and then we can move upstream from there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One thing, oh, sorry, somebody?
Oh, it's me, Kim. I was just going to share that KTNB has created sort of a table in our brainstorming session to identify some of these red flags in terms of our efforts to reduce our waste, and I'm happy to share it with the group. It basically outlines some of the materials, waste in general that we generate, different types and different categories, the threats and opportunities for diversion, and I think most importantly, like opportunities for diversion and some of like unintended consequences for any like supplements to transitioning from like a non-sustainable option to a sustainable option, like things like that. Happy to share it with you, Lakshmi.
Sure. Kim, so is this table kind of outline the sources of the waste? Is that kind of where it's more geared towards?
It starts with the actual product or item that is being thrown away.
Okay. Yeah, I think we should be able to share it with the team. That would be great. Yeah, we definitely should consider that for the next, next meeting. To your list that you're collecting, Bree, I think plastic, just single-use plastic perhaps should be added because like Madonna and Laura and all pointed out, right, there's some of the, I personally also was thinking Nevada being, a dry state pretty much. So that's why I wanted to first at least put water, waste reduction as one of the items for the team to consider. So that's the thing. I think those are some of the broad categories we pretty much have from the waste study, and then also anything else that everybody can see the list that Bree has made, right, on that she's sharing. Anything else do you think that we need to add here before, we can kind of look at what we want to focus and all that, but any broad categories that come to mind? I think I was just looking at my list, Bree, that under the industry thing, should we make it a little bit more specific, say appliances and electronics, and that would everybody agree that that's one of the things we could look at? And then manufacturing, I would say, should also perhaps include, it kind of circled back to the mining, but kind of extraction of resources and to produce that, whatever that, item, and then the, and then packaging of that, right? So, and then also about, under the industry, disposal should be built into, disposal cost, or it's kind of like what we gets under the extended producer responsibility. So it should be, thank you. Yeah. End of life, yeah. So, under the construction material, I guess maybe subcategories kind of would be, so like the wood And what else? And the concrete, I don't know, whatever it takes. Those type of materials, and then
Metal, glass,
yeah, exactly.
metal, glass, and others. And
So
plastic.
actually, Laura had a good suggestion, identifying the industries, kind of what we were doing here. So like I added retail. What do you think about that? Like identifying the industries and then putting the waste under. So like how we were doing manufacturing, retail, maybe restaurants.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
Can I add here, household, commercial, and government bodies is one category. So we know there are the municipal solid waste that the Washoe County did analyze as municipal solid waste. And then we live in a community or in a certain jurisdiction. Under that, there is electronics and the medical waste, tires and other wastes. So the industry is more, we focus textile, plastic, chemical, ashes, and other based on what we produce in our states. I mean, some other, they may have nuclears and waste and other waste. So for me is water and energy waste, it's different waste. It is not really a waste, it's an efficiency question. But a wastewater treatment, there's another waste in the city, where sludge, solid waste, chemical and other waste in a city. That also, it's a waste. So in the mining, we have the mining, the waste rock and the mining, the mine water, it's already polluted, and chemicals that are in agriculture, absolute pesticides, fertilizers, plastic containers, manure, slaughter waste, and other waste. It depends on what we have in Nevada. So when we categorized first the origin of waste, they are the waste, and then we minimized it to our state. This is what we need to focus on, and then we minimized by the jurisdiction or municipal waste, and then all this is the origin. What is the thing we can do? So the categorization like we did now will help us to brainwash and brainstorm and to get ideas. You know, if we do this, we can do that, so that we can do the proposal. The reason I insisted a definition is because when we have the regulation, will help us. Consistency is important. We define it for Washoe County or Northern Nevada. It shouldn't be different from Southern Nevada. So this is one state. So, but we put any substance prescribed by the regulation to be waste. We don't know. Tomorrow there is the regulation state of Nevada state, and then they may say that this type of waste is waste. We don't know. So we will wider, first we define it wider, any substance, whether solid, liquid, or gases, that is discharged, emitted into the environment. This is what we mean by that waste. Any discarded, rejected, unwanted, surplus, abandoned substance, that also is waste. Any otherwise discarded, rejected, unwanted, surplus, abandoned substance intended for sale or recycling, and then they go to landfill, that also waste. Any processed, recycled, reused, recovered substance produced wholly, partly from waste, that also waste. So when we have that, and then we have the origin of waste based on category, based on our state, and then we're starting a study. For example, I'm sorry I took time. The Washoe County study, they did classification. They took a sample, they analyzed it. That is a way, but they didn't define it. They just know what's going on in Washoe County, what type of waste exists in that Washoe County. That is a good for the Washoe County, the way to identify it. But for us now at the state level, we need to categorize it, what we started, the right way to go. And then for each, the household waste, what are the white household waste and the municipal waste we can focus on? Is there anything we can focus on the agriculture or the mining or the industry? Because some is out of our really capacity to go with any industry, you can't produce this and that. But what is the thing we can do so that we can narrow down and we put energy on that? Thank you. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to chime in a little bit and say, thank you. Those are really great ideas, and I agree with you on all of those counts. But and yes, we need to go deeper into each one of these. And you outlined them, and it looks like you have a great list of things we will need to be looking at. For today's goal, though, we're trying to make it into a more broader category that we can work on for the coming 6 months. So as you can see from this list, it's already quite big and quite, what I'm trying to get at is how can we focus our efforts? Can we look at, let's say if we were to take food waste, like Jeremy said, and Kim said, we're looking at food waste from the angle of how do we reduce it from before it gets into that thing, right? So to me, when we use general category food waste, that's what we mean. And then we will go into super details in the following sessions, right? So that's where I would like to, given that I think Bree has to leave a little early today, I would like to take the next 10 minutes to kind of agree on the broad categories that, or maybe get a consensus from everybody on what we should leave out of this. What should we focus on for the next month? What is kind of, what do we think is, some kind of achievable goals or maybe very imminent for Nevada to, as a state to address, right? So let's try and do that if that's okay with you guys. So I think we've got a very good list going. So shall we just take a, for a lack of a better word, vote on this? Liz and Bree, what do you think? Is that?
Sorry, I'm not following what you're saying.
What I'm trying to say is we've got a fairly good list of, things that we may want to focus on. I mean, that definitely needs focusing on, but given the amount of time we have and is there some, broad categories here that people would vote more towards, focusing on, and let's make like a priority list and a secondary priority list or something like that.
One way we can, go ahead, Liz.
No.
Or whoever talks.
No, go ahead, Bree.
I was thinking also we could do a survey on this. Lakshmi and Liz, I can get with you and we can format this into a better list for people to look at. And we can have people rank if their top 5 choices, or that could be one way we go about it. The other thing is potentially maybe next time have people prepare like your top choices as to why these are issues that we should focus on. So yeah, we have a lot of great ideas here, but which ones are either like major issues that we should focus on or low-hanging fruits? Kind of getting some background information on some of these. I don't know how you guys feel on that.
Bree,
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, I think
That's a
that
great
we need to really kind of focus on either picking some criteria such as, okay, most tonnage is coming from this waste. What's creating that waste? Is it, you know, cleanup in Incline Village with the forest, and so we have a lot of organic waste, and how is the organic group going to be dealing with this? How can we as a group look at how that waste is created and how we can reduce it? So I do think we should have a criteria of like what's the biggest waste that's going into Nevada landfills, and then you know, kind of narrowing it down from there, and then moving. I think we really need to focus on moving upstream, not the waste itself, but how to reduce it to begin with at the source, how it's created, because that's our focus as this group. And we have a recycling group and we have an organics group that's going to be dealing with the actual end stuff that's going into the landfill. But yeah, I think we do need to, I think a survey would be great. In my opinion, that's something that we can at least get focused on, and we can all see the end result of it and go from there.
Yeah. The criteria that we could come up with is, yes, what is the biggest amount of waste that we saw from the waste study, or also maybe things that, the other thing would be low-hanging fruit, right? Is a criteria where there is actually opportunities exist that, you know, what other criteria, like hazard toxicity. Thank you, Bree. Hazardous, what else? And looking at this list, let's see. Maybe the general interest, say from the business community or the you know, industries that you know, things like that they might be interested in focusing on. So therefore, yeah, and what else? And perhaps like something that affects multiple things, like plastic, like affects ocean life and also adds to climate, you know, issues, right? So yeah. Any other ideas, guys, or criteria?
I think this is a great starting point. If we could design the survey around people, you know, thinking about those things, and then pick out what they think fits some of those criteria. Obviously, one thing isn't going to fit all of those, but and I don't think that's the point. But just like that'll help us pick out major areas to focus on. And I think if people can think about any data they have or any specific experiences, stories related to any of this to kind of push their idea of, you know, okay, we need to go after this toxicity thing because of X, Y, Z, or we need to focus on food waste reduction of food waste because it's the most in the land, you know, most of the percentage in the waste stream. Or so yeah, I think actually these are great starting points.
Thank you. I want to make sure that we got Nima's feedback because she wasn't able to attend today. Her focus was textiles and because it connects to toxic waste as well, and it connects to a lot of other things. So, okay, we got it. Cool. Okay. So what we'll do then, like Bree said, we will take this list that we have compiled and that Bree has compiled, and then use this criteria and try to come up with the survey to send to everyone. If you have any other ideas that we may have missed here or anything else, criteria that you want to add or anything at all, please, send it to us. We're really looking for feedback from everybody or if you have ideas on if this should be, this whole meeting should be conducted in a separate, different way. If you have the other ideas, anything, just let us know. Or if you think that if we're doing, going about it the right way, yes, that would be good to know as well. Okay. Actually, Bree, we might even end a minute. Does anybody have anything you want to add or?
Could you add definitions in the survey?
Definitions, sure. Yeah, I think she recaptured some of that. Okay, thank you.
In the survey.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, you wanna like maybe do write up about what the definition should be? So just tell us an opinion on the definition.
Yes, it's very important. In order to develop a criteria, we need a definition. From now on, we create a consistency through what we do in anything about waste reduction. Mm-hmm. Therefore, we can share with a different jurisdiction, because the textile, for example, it is more pronounced in southern Nevada than northern Nevada. Electronics and other maybe, and agriculture waste is more pronounced in northern Nevada and the other south. So, but the definition will give us a broader idea what is waste is that covered state of Nevada. And then when we do things, we will, in the criteria, we know how to play based on any jurisdiction, what they face. But municipal waste maybe is common, the south and the north or something like that. Yes, I would love to have that definition, and then we extract the criteria. Anything we do, it should be strategic approach. And then, and if that is a way we can communicate better and use our 1 hour time of discussion in another time. So thank you very much. It's really fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, just one parting thought there is when, at least philosophically speaking for me, source reduction does not actually have to be directly waste related. It could be, saving more resources for future generations, so we don't use up that much.
Of course.
So maybe taking the idea of waste out of it, just keep just source reduction is also something. It's just okay, I think so we will send that out. Thank you, everyone.
And this is meeting every 2 weeks, same day, Lakshmi? Every other Tuesday?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
okay.
I haven't heard anyone say this won't work, so I'm hoping it looks like this is a good cadence and good timing.
Okay. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you,
Lakshmi and Liz.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Aye.
Bree, does this capture all the chat things?
I don't know, but I copied and pasted it into the notes.
Okay, okay.
So
Great.
I gotta head off here in a minute, but I'll get you guys that by the end of the day, the notes I
Okay.
took. And then just let me know what you have available the rest of this week. Thursday, I don't have any time, but we can get that survey knocked out. So yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna chat with Liz because I think she's traveling, and then get back to you because based on her availability. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Great.
I'll let you go. I have to head out.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.